Hi everyone. In this video, I want to cover a couple different things. First, we're going to look at the use of an absolute reference in a formula and explain that so we can figure out what that's all about. I'll show you a quick way, once you have some formulas set up, a quick way to use your fill handle to copy your formulas. Okay, so let's get started. So you can see here I have a report for this particular company, and it looks like we're looking at Q2 and Q3. So these have already been set up. I can click inside of, let's say, B7, and I can see that there's actually a formula here because I'm looking up here at my formula bar, and I can see that the 25,510 is actually the result of adding B5 and B6. So just remember, if you're ever confused about what's inside your cell, click in the cell and then look up at the formula bar to see exactly what's going on. So it looks like we set up those formulas, and then remember we can use the fill handle to just pull all the way across to fill in that formula. So that's a quick way to accomplish that. So now let's move on to figuring out our expenses. And I'm going to start here in cell B10. And it looks like the way they have this particular spreadsheet set up, you can see our first expense is a mortgage expense. And when I look over here on the right-hand side, I can see that they have given us some expense percentage estimates. So what this means is that they're saying the mortgage will be about 17% of our total sales. So that's how we're going to figure out how much our mortgage would be for April. So when you're first working with a formula, sometimes it definitely may seem a little daunting, but just think about it, just kind of go back to your math and think about how would I figure this out if I wasn't in Excel and someone said, I have a mortgage expense. I'm estimating it's going to be about 17% of my total sales. So when you're taking a percentage of a number, that means multiply, remember? So I would figure that out. I would take whatever is in cell B7, so I would take my 25,510 and multiply it by 17%. And that's how I would figure out my expenses, my mortgage expense for April. So let's put that into Excel terms and make a formula. So what do we start our formulas with? Always, always, always. We'll start with the equal sign. Okay, so in the book, it actually has us looking at, we're going to put in our mortgage expense first, and I can see that's in cell K4. Yep, okay, so I'm just typing in K4. Okay, and already when I'm typing it in, notice it's blue and it highlights it over here, so I know I'm in the right one. We could also click on it as well, but we'll just stick to typing for this example. Okay, so now whenever I'm multiplying, I'm using the asterisk sign. If you happen to have a full keyboard, if you're not working on a laptop, and you might have a numeric keypad on the right-hand side, you can just use the asterisk on that side. You don't have to worry about doing shift or anything. If you do have just a laptop or not a full keyboard, then it would be shift and 8 would be your multiplication sign. So I'm just typing that in. And now I'm taking the 17% times whatever is in B7, which is my total sales for April. And again, once I type that in, it nicely highlights that cell for me. So I know I'm on the right track. I have the correct information in my formula. Okay, so let's, for kicks, we're just going to leave it like that. I'm going to go ahead and press the enter key, and I get $4,336.70. Now, if I just left it as it is, so I said K4 times B7, and that makes sense, right? Because your mortgage is a percentage of your total sales. So obviously it needs to be less. So sometimes also when you're setting up your formulas, you want to take a look, does that number make sense? And in this case, yes, it does. So if I go ahead and use my fill handle, because we've talked about this and this is kind of a neat thing to use, and I start going across, I'm going to fill all the way to September. I'm not going to do the totals yet. Uh-oh, what happened? So definitely is not what I was expecting. So let's take a peek and see why. So now if I go into the following column, which is column C, and I'm on C10, and now I'm looking up at my formula bar up here. So I'm going to kind of do my investigation and figure out why this didn't work. So now it's saying L4 times C7. So where's L4? L4 is actually right over here, right? So basically it's saying 0 times C7, which is the 43,000. And obviously you can't multiply, a number by 0. You're not going to get, it's basically nothing. So that's why it's not working. Remember, I think we, in your book, you probably read about relative referencing. So what happens when we copy this formula over to the next cell, Excel will go ahead and notice it moved over to C7 instead of B7, so it hopped over there, and then it also hopped from K4 over to L4. Let's take a look at the next cell. Same thing. It did correctly identify D7, which is what we want, but now it's hopped over yet another column to and cell to M4. So that's called relative referencing. In this case, relative referencing is not going to work because we want it to always point to K4 for all of our numbers here. So let's go ahead. I'll just highlight those and delete them. I selected it. And I'll go back to my formula, and basically all I need to do in my formula is to set K4 as an absolute reference. So I'm going to go into my formula bar up here. I just clicked, I'll click to the left of the K and I'll type in a $sign. And then I'll move over. I'm just using the arrow keys on my keyboard and I'll type another $sign. So now it says the equal sign, of course, and then it says K4, $K, $4 times B7. And what that tells Excel is no matter where I copy this formula, always point to K4. The B7, I don't have any $signs in it, so that's automatically going to change, which is what we want because we want it to change to C7, D7, E7, etc. But the K4 for all of the months that are referencing this mortgage expense, I want it to point to K4, right? So let's press enter again. You can see it's still the same number, but now let's try the fill handle again and see what we get. Should look better. Yep, definitely better. So let's take another peek over here. So if I go to C10, I can see up here in my formula bar that since I use that absolute reference, that the K4 is still intact in my formula, and Excel changed it to C7, which is correct. And then this one, K4 still is here, and then Excel changed it to D7. So that's what we want because we're just using this number here. Another reason why is to use something like this is, let's say just in case someone came back and said, I think our estimate was a little high. I'm going to change this instead of 17%, I'm going to change it to 15%. So if I go ahead and change it to 15% and press the enter key, notice how all of my numbers over here changed because I was pointing to K4. So in this formula, it's saying whatever's in K4, multiply it by whatever is in B7. This is one of the most powerful things about Excel is that you can, by using a formula instead of the actual hard number, you can make those type of changes and you don't have to go back and then make all these changes within your worksheet. Excel will do it for you because you had that formula set up already. So let's go back and change it to 17%. Okay, and then our numbers are back there. Now, if you take a look in your book, it has us set up the rest of these formulas. So in this instant, for administrative costs, I'll start with an equal sign, of course, and this time I'm going to type in K5 times B7. Right? Because I want to take the administrative percent, which is 15%, and I'm multiplying it by the 25,000. Now, if I go back over here, I can either type in the $signs, or you can also use the F4 key on your keyboard. If you're using a laptop, you might have to press the function key first to let it know that you're using the function key versus a lot of the function keys also have dual purposes. So when I just push the F4 button on my keyboard, it's just a quick little shortcut. It puts in the dollar signs automatically. Either way, type them in, F4, whatever works. Okay, so I'll press enter one more time and let's set up our commission. So I'll say the equal, and then in this instance, I'm going to do K6, and I'm going to go ahead and use the F4 key so it automatically puts it in. I'll use the asterisk as the multiplication, and then B7. And last one, we'll work on our support. So I'm going to say K7 and then push the F4 button, the asterisk times B7. Oops, not BY, B7. Sorry about that. Okay, and then last but not least, we may as well go ahead and go ahead and set up our formula for our expenses. So several different ways you can set up the formula. I'll do it the way they're showing it in the exercise. So again, we want to start with the equal sign. Now in this case, we could either type in B10 or notice how I'm just clicking on it and that automatically puts it into the formula. Before I move on and click on B11, I have to put some type of arithmetic operator. Sorry, lost my train of thought there. Some type of operator, whether it's a plus sign, a multiplication sign, that type of thing. So in this case, we're adding, so I'm going to put a plus sign, and then I'll click on B11, and I'll type in a plus sign, B12 plus, and then B13. So now I'm adding all of those together. Yes, a shorter way would be to use the auto sum or just type it in yourself, equals sum, and then in the parentheses and then highlight, but I'm just showing you different ways to do things, okay? So I'm just going to press the enter key here. So now I have this whole column of information set up, and what I can do, instead of like using the fill handle on each one of these, let's do this. Let's go ahead and select from B11 all the way through B14. So now I'm on step 5 in your exercise. So I have all of these selected. Notice that even though I have a larger selection, I do have a fill handle here. Okay, so what this is going to do is automatically copy the formulas from all of my selection over. So I don't have to do these all at one time. So let's go ahead and use that fill handle, and I'm going to drag over to G14. So now I'm filling in from C11 through G14. So if I let go of my mouse button, you can see that Excel nicely filled in all of this information for me. And even though we had different types of formulas, like this one we had our multiplication formula, this one was our total formula. It doesn't matter, it just takes whatever was to the left of it and then fills it in, you know, as we drag across. So that is a quick way to set up your formulas. So we set these up. We just drag this one just as an example, but I could have just set up all of these and then selected all of them and then used the fill handle to drag all the way across. But the only reason these all work, again, is because we're using the absolute reference, so that no matter where we're copying the formula, it's automatically pointing to one of these cells. So again, the dollar sign in front of the K means I'll always point to column K. The dollar sign in front of the 4 means I'll always point to row 4. Thus, it means that I will always point to cell K4, no matter where this formula is copied. So I hope that that makes sense as far as the absolute reference. Sorry for it being a little long, but wanting to make sure that you have a good understanding of the absolute reference. It's not used, you may not run across a situation that you have to use absolute reference quite a bit, but when you need it, it is very, very convenient and makes things much easier. That's it for now. I hope you got something out of this video, something that will help you with your coursework and understanding more of Excel. Thanks for watching.